So you make that smooth move to Houston. So as I mentioned before, we're talking about Houston, which is the fourth largest city in U.S. by population right now, behind New York, Los Angeles, and Chicago. Now, Houston sits roughly 50 miles northwest of the Gulf of Mexico, thanks to the spot near Galveston Bay. So you're close enough for beach day trips, but still safely inland to avoid the worst storm surge and hurricane flooding. So let's break down the real pros and cons of living in Houston. And we're going to start with the one that makes the biggest impact on your wallet. The first pro I would have to say is that Houston has no state income tax and the cost of living that's lower than most big cities. If you're relocating from places like New York, California, or even Austin, your paycheck goes further right away, especially when it comes to housing. Now, the median home price here in Houston is between $335,000 and $448,000, depending on the area. Imagine owning a spacious 4-bedroom home in places like Katy or Cypress for the same price as a 2-bedroom condo in Los Angeles. And people, we're not talking about just any home. We're talking about newer builds, often with open floor plans, game rooms, and spacious backyards. It's a lifestyle at a much lower price. But, of course, with that affordability comes a few trade-offs, and the first con is our extreme weather and flooding. Let's talk about the weather because, Houston's climate isn't for everyone. We're talking about heat, humidity, and hurricanes. Summers can feel like 100 degrees by 10 a.m., and with the humidity, it can feel even heavier. Now add in tropical storms, heavy rains, and flash floods, and you start to see why it's a deal breaker for some people. Houston has been hit by many major storms like Hurricane Harvey and Ike, and even on a regular day, some areas flood and with just a heavy downpour. But the good news is that many of our newer communities have improved drainage systems and elevation plans. But you still want to do your research, the research the flood zone, and consider flood insurance no matter where you buy it. It's a reality of living in Houston, but one can prepare for it if you know what to expect. I'll never forget showing a home out in Cypress one summer afternoon. The sun was out, the skies were blue, and then out of nowhere, a thunderstorm rolled in. Within about 20 minutes, the streets were flooded up to the curb, and it passed pretty quickly, but just as soon as it came. But for someone new to Houston, it's a real wake-up call, and that's when I realized in Houston, the weather can be unpredictable, but being prepared makes all the difference in the world. On another occasion, man, I'd probably say a few years ago, hurricane hit, and man, I think we were out of power for at least about 5 days, right? And some other Houstonians were out even longer. It's a big inconvenience. We're talking about no power, no Wi-Fi, which is a huge inconvenience for people. And we said, when we were in this one house, and we said, when we sell our home for our new house, we were going to make sure that we got a generator, a whole house generated. That way, when the power goes out, we're still rocking and rolling. Now, we still won't have internet, but at least we'll have some power. So I would probably say, if you do come to Houston, you probably want to make sure, if the home is not equipped with a whole house generator, that you invest in one. It's probably one of the best investments that you ever could make in a home. Now let's shift gears, because while the weather here can be wild, the Houston job market is one of the strongest in the country. We're talking about energy, healthcare, aerospace, and tech. In fact, over 57,000 new jobs were added in Houston Metro in 2024 alone. Major employers like Chevron, MB Anderson, Houston Methodist, Baker Hughes, Halliburton, ExxonMobil, and NASA are just a few companies that call this city home. And that creates opportunities in nearly every industry. I have family and friends and clients who work for some of these companies, and they're not just working, they are thriving. But with all that growth comes people. And with more people means more freaking traffic. And that brings us to con number 2, which is long commutes and limited public transportation. Houston is big, like really big. I mean, we're talking about over 600 square miles, and that means one thing: you'll probably need a car. Let me rephrase that: you will need a car. This city is so extremely car dependent. I mean, in fact, over 75% of Houstonians commute by car, and during rush hour, even a short 10-minute trip can take 45 minutes or more. So my advice is, while you're sitting in traffic, it's the perfect time to throw on your favorite podcast, and that way you can start your day inspired or come home feeling less stressed. If you're moving here from a city with strong public transportation or transit like New York, Chicago, or DC, Houston might feel like a step backward. But we do have buses and a light rail systems, but they don't actually cover most of the suburbs where people live. So if you're looking at homes in places like Cypress, Katy, Sugar Land, or the Woodlands, expect to drive and factor in the commute time when choosing where you want to live. That being said, I do have a silver lining for you. Most suburbs offer the park and ride option through Metro, where you can hop on a commuter bus that uses the HOV to bypass traffic. It's not perfect, but for people who work downtown, it can be a stress-free way to avoid the daily grind behind the wheel. Now let's talk about something that makes Houston more enjoyable, and that's the culture, and specifically the food. Houston is hands down one of the most diverse cities in the U.S., and that shows up in our culture, the neighborhoods, and especially the food. Over 145 languages are spoken here, and you'll find communities from all around the world living side by side. That diversity fuels the best food scenes in the country. You can grab a Vietnamese, Mexican street tacos, Nigerian jollof rice, and some good old Texas barbecue within a 10-mile radius. And when I want to treat myself, I go straight to Steak 48. It's one of my favorite spots in the entire city. It's got a great vibe, good service, good drink, and the steak, well, it's always on point. And if you do happen to visit, be sure to treat yourself to some of that good old ultimate warm vanilla cake. Another fun place my family and friends like to hit up is the Breakfast Club. They got chicken and waffles, catfish and grits. You really can't go wrong. There's usually a line, but it moves pretty quickly. Be sure to check them out the next time you're in town. You know, Houston hosts some incredible events like the Houston Rodeo, the Art Car Parade, cultural festivals that celebrate everything from the Greek heritage to the Caribbean roots. Houston is the kind of place, where you're always just one weekend away from something new to experience. And if you are someone like me who loves sports, we've got 4 professional teams right here in the city. You got the Houston Texans for football, the Houston Rockets for basketball, the Astros for baseball, and the Dynamo for soccer. There's always a game to catch with plenty of hometown pride to go around. But while Houston scores big in lifestyle and entertainment, there is one area that can catch people off guard, and that's our property taxes and insurance, which brings us to con number 3, property taxes and insurance costs. Houston might be affordable when it comes to housing, but what surprises a lot of people, I find, is the ongoing cost, especially for property taxes and insurance. We don't have a state income tax, which is great and everything, but when it comes down to it, sure does make up for it with some of the highest property tax rates in the country. In the Houston area, you'll often see rates around 2 to 3% depending on the neighborhood and the school district. So what that means is on a $400,000 home, you could pay anywhere from $8,000 to $12,000 just in property taxes. Then there's home insurance. And if you're in a flood or near a flood zone, you'll likely need flood insurance too. Property rates or insurance rates have been rising over recent years, and some homeowners are now paying over $5,000 annually just to stay covered. For new home buyers, that could be a budget shock. It's not a deal breaker for everybody, but it's definitely something that you'll want to factor in when you're planning your move. Now, on the flip side, one of the biggest advantages of living in Houston is access to world-class healthcare and solid education options. So let's talk about that. Now that brings us to the 4th pro, which is healthcare and education access. If access to top-tier education and healthcare matters to you, Houston delivers. We're home to the Texas Medical Center, the largest medical complex in the world. It includes hospitals like MD Anderson Cancer Center, the Houston Methodist, and the Texas Children's Hospital, all nationally ranked. People fly in from all around the country and even internationally just to receive care here. So if healthcare is a priority for you and your family, Houston has some of the best options available. Now on the education side, we've got respected universities like Rice, the University of Houston, Prairie View, and Texas Southern University. And if you're raising a family, there are strong public and private K-12 options, especially in the suburbs like Katy, Cypress, Sugar Land, and the Woodlands. There are also magnet and charter programs across the metro area, so families have choices when it comes to finding the right fit. On a personal note, my daughter, she attends elementary school in Cypress ISD, and we've been enjoying the educational programs, and my daughter is excelling quite well. She's a little cheerleader, and her little cheer squad have been invited to football outings at Rice and the University of Houston. So it's been quite the ride, and been having a lot of fun. And Texas high school football is king, and on Friday nights, many Houstonians are out at the football games, watching the games and tailgating. But while Houston offers great opportunities for healthcare and education, like many major cities, we have our challenges when it comes to safety. So let's talk about crime and what you need to know before choosing a neighborhood. Con number 4, crime and safety concerns. Let's be real, crime is something people think about when moving into a big city, and Houston is no exception. Certain parts of the city do struggle with higher crime rates, especially when it comes to property crime and break-ins and car thefts. In fact, many locals will tell you never leave your valuables in your car, especially if you're downtown. Now here's the good news. Violent crime has actually gone down in recent years. but the perception of safety is still a concern for a lot of people, especially for those relocating from smaller towns or quieter suburbs. That's why it's so important to do your homework. Crime varies by neighborhood. Areas like Katy, Cypress, the Woodlands, and Sugarland consistently rank among the safest, and they're popular for a reason. So while crime shouldn't scare you away from Houston, it should be a part of your conversation, when you're choosing where you want to live. So if you do plan on moving here to Houston, it's very, very important that you seek out people who have your best interests at heart. Talk to your family, co-workers, church, or a trusted advisor like myself who will help guide you to the best areas around town. So while crime shouldn't scare you away from Houston, it should be a part of the conversation when choosing where you want to live. Now let's move on to the fifth and final pro, which is growth, development, and opportunity. One of the most exciting things about living in Houston right now is the growth. Everywhere you look, there's a new master plan communities popping up. Expanding shopping centers, new schools, and more businesses are moving in. Areas like Richmond, Spring, and Manville are exploding with new home construction, and it's creating tons of opportunities for homeowners, investors, and business owners alike. Even during challenging markets, Houston continues to attract companies and families because of its affordability, economic strength, and space to grow. So if you're thinking about long term, Houston's the place, not just a place to live, it's a smart place to plant your roots. Because one of the biggest reasons people are moving here in the first place is the growth. Houston isn't just holding steady, it's expanding fast. So let's recap here. Houston has its fair share of trade-offs just like any other big city. But if you're looking for the right place with opportunity, diversity, and great food and room to grow, this city just might be what you are looking for. So to recap, some of our pros are no state income tax plus affordability, a booming job market, culture and food, shout out Steak 48 and the Breakfast Club, top-notch healthcare and education, and a ton of growth and development. Now, some of the cons we've talked about were heat, humidity, and hurricanes, long commutes and car dependency, property taxes and insurance, crime concerns in some areas. But at the end of the day, Houston isn't perfect, but for the right person, it can be the perfect move. So hopefully this gives you a pretty good summary of what you can pretty much expect. I can go on and on for hours about Houston. We have so much to do here, especially if you like to have fun. We have outdoor activities, a lot of indoor, plenty of shopping, and diverse restaurants. We have it all. There are a few downsides, depending on the real estate, whether you want dated or brand new home construction. These are the types of things that we like to talk you through, especially with our clients, whenever they're looking at Houston or even comparing it to cities like Katy, Cypress, Sugarland, or the Woodlands, or some areas like that. We just like to talk you through it. So hopefully this gives you a good idea, just a quick overview of some of the pros and cons of Houston. I believe it's one of the best cities in all of Texas, so you can't go wrong living here, but we believe anyway. But also, it has to be the right fit for you and your family. That's the main thing. So just give us a call, shoot us a text, or send us an email. We'll be happy to help you make that smooth move to Houston. So until next time, my friends, we hope to be able to show you around town.